Good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the June 15th, 2026 meeting of the Healdsburg City Council. Can we begin with a roll call, please?
Maybe. Councilmember Higley, Councilmember Mitchell. Here. Councilmember Kelly. Here. Vice Mayor Edwards.
Here.
Mayor Herod.
Here. All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Move to approve the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The agenda is approved. I'd like to just take a moment to acknowledge that the air conditioning is not working in this room right now. We have a temporary unit in the back. If anybody's having trouble hearing, you're certainly invited to come to the front or the other side of the room, or if it's really awful for you, please raise your hand and we will turn off the air conditioner. It's not too loud. I think it's going to be okay, but I just want to put it out there. I want to make sure everybody can hear the meeting. And, if it looks like we're getting a little, wet brow up here, it's not because we're so nervous, it's because it's just getting a little warmer, but it seems all right now. I know the staff has done everything they can to make it comfortable for us here tonight. Okay. So no report on closed sessions. We'll move on to announcements and a proclamation declaring July 2026 as Parks Make Life Better Month with Councilmember Mitchell.
Thank you. A proclamation of the City Council of the City of Healdsburg recognizing July 2026 as Parks Make Life Better Month in the City of Healdsburg. Whereas Healdsburg Parks and Recreation, also known as the Community Services Department, creates memorable experiences through youth sports and enrichment activities, a robust senior center, adult fitness, education, and enrichment programs, free community-focused events, arts and cultural celebrations, and so much more. And whereas Healdsburg Community Services supports human development and endless learning opportunities that foster social, intellectual, physical, and emotional growth in people of all ages and abilities. And whereas Healdsburg Community Services plays a significant role in enhancing the quality of life in communities while providing open space for people to engage in recreational activities and gather and interact with others. And whereas parks such as Badger Park, Georgie Park, Barbieri Park, Laura Fish Somersault Park, Recreation Park, the Healdsburg Ridge, and Fitch Mountain provide access to outdoor spaces for all ages and ability levels to enjoy and support the economic vitality of our community by hosting events, creating jobs, and enhancing property values. And whereas Healdsburg Community Services sustains and stewards our natural resources by protecting habitats and open space, connecting people to nature, and promoting the ecological function of parkland. And whereas Healdsburg Community Services plays a significant role in enhancing the quality of life in communities, the Healdsburg Community Services Department and volunteers help to build a stronger, more vibrant community by offering extensive recreational programming while providing open space for people to engage in recreational activities, to gather, connect, and interact with one another. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that the City Council of the City of Healdsburg does hereby proclaim July 2026 as Parks Make Life Better Month and encourages all residents to celebrate our local parks utilizing our recreation programs.
All right, thank you very much. Receiving this proclamation is Anna Grant and some friends. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I'm actually going to hand the microphone over to our part-time staff, specifically one of the part-time staff from the senior center, but you have a good showing of some of our other part-time staffers here as well. So take it away, Don McKay.
Hello, I lived in Healdsburg for about 30 years, and Anna asked me to come up and say a few words about parks and community services since they've been involved in my life for about 30 years. When I first moved up here, one of the big reasons we came up here was because of the recreation activities for children. I'd grown up in San Francisco on a large hill. So skateboarding meant holding, which I never did, holding on to the back of an electric bus as it went up the hill and letting go when it got to the top and then coming back down. And that was a little out of my league. So I thought for my kids, we'd do something a little safer and maybe move to Healdsburg, which we did. And they enjoyed soccer and bulldog football and all sorts of things. And as they got older, they enjoyed Fish Mountain and going down to the river seemed to really make them happy whenever they came back. I was like, hey, how'd it go at the river? Like, it's great at the river, Dad. And so I'm not quite sure what was going on down there. Maybe Matt does more than I do. But they were very happy being able to get outdoors and utilize what community services has provided here in Healdsburg. And now I'm working for the senior center, so I'm participating in community services, and I enjoy that very much. I think they do a wonderful job down there. There's a great active community of people there who probably 20 or 30 people come through there on a daily basis to use the resources there. And I have job security because seniors insist on paying for everything with dollar bills, which need to be counted and taken over to the finance department on almost a daily basis. So I'll definitely be there for a while, but it's very enjoyable. So I've enjoyed having that experience for 30 years with community services. And thank you very much. And these are my entourage. Does anybody want to throw in a word or two? No? No? Everybody's
You're
good?
welcome
Okay,
to.
we're all good.
All right, we're gonna have you up for a photo in just a moment. I think we'll go ahead and do the photo separate since all these people are already. And but I just want to take a moment to say we have a lot of opportunities to praise and thank our community services department throughout the year, and I think we take advantage of those opportunities. But I really do appreciate this proclamation because our community services department is really stellar. They work so hard, they do so much for our community, and they make life so much richer for everybody here in this town. So that it's a well-deserved proclamation, in my opinion. Does anybody else like to add anything at this point? No. Yeah.
I echo those sentiments. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, let's go ahead and do a photo while these folks are up, and then we'll move on to the next one.
Over here. Okay.
Okay. Tall people in back, not as tall people in front. We know who you are. I don't know if you know this, but it always looks funny when people do that. All right. One more. Thank you.
You can stand up when they.
Tonight, but okay, we're going to move on to a proclamation declaring June 22nd through 28th, 2026 as Pollinator Week. Vice Mayor Ron Edwards.
Yeah, a proclamation of the City Council of the City of Healdsburg declaring June 22nd to 28th, 2026 as Pollinator Week in the City of Healdsburg. Whereas pollinator species such as birds, bats, bees, butterflies, moths, beetles, and other insects are essential partners in our ecosystem, playing a critical role in the reproduction of native vegetation and a healthy and natural landscape. And pollinators is vital to agriculture production, supporting the cultivation of fruits, vegetables, and nuts that contribute significantly to our local economy and food security. And whereas the 2026 National Pollinator Week theme, Life on a Leaf, celebrating caterpillars and host plants, highlights the critical relationship between native vegetation and the early life stages of approximately 11,000 species of moss, 750 species of butterflies in the United States. And whereas a healthy pollinator population requires robust habitat, including native host plants and nectar-producing flowers, which face ongoing challenges from habitat loss, fragmentation, and environmental changes. Whereas municipalities, communities, organizations, and residents can play an active role in pollinator conservation by planting native species, establishing community gardens, and participating in global community science efforts like Pollinator Week BioBlitz. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the city and the City Council of Healdsburg hereby declare the week of June 22nd through the 28th, 2026 as Pollinator Week in the city of Healdsburg.
All right, I'd like to welcome Sean Shields to receive the proclamation and share a few words.
Hello, everyone.
I think the microphone got pushed down during the photo. If you want to lift it up, thank you.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, thank you. So why we're here, and hopefully while you're here, we're all a part of this Pollinator Week. And so with that thought in mind, I appreciate the City Council and the Rotary Club of Healdsburg that supported us and me in this project. Now I have to fess up one situation. I just won't say the name, but I had promised some plants and we were going to put on some pollinator accoutrements, but that didn't happen. But there's always next year. I promise. Thank you. Okay.
All right, thank you. Did you want to, yeah, if no one wants to speak, no, that's fine. Yeah.
Okay, I wanted to personally and also on behalf of the Noon Rotary Club to thank the City Council for this proclamation to really emphasize the vital importance of pollinators in our ecosystem. And to call attention to the decrease in numbers of pollinators worldwide, as well as locally, and a call for us to do something about it. The Pollinator Week, as you may know, started in 2006 by a U.S. Senate resolution to respond to the pollinator decrease worldwide. And subsequent to that, there have been these annual National Pollinator Week recognition or celebrations. So basically, as you pointed out, without pollinators, 75% of flowering plants, 33% of world crops will be lost, which will lead to loss of human life, especially in third world countries. In California, about 1/3 of the 1,600 species of bees are threatened. And we are all aware of the alarming decrease in the beautiful Western monarch butterflies. Causes are habitat loss, pesticides, effects of climate change. Our Rotary Club has been working on this issue for a number of years to educate and to, mainly education, pass out native wildflower seeds to stimulate interest in terms of helping out the pollinators. We will do this again this coming Tuesday, I'm sorry, during Pollinator Week at the farmers market. Sean and I will be there giving information, also passing out native wildflower seeds to help the pollinators. So again, I wanted to thank you. And kind of an unrelated note, because of we do a fair number of environmental projects. I wanted to give a shout out to Mayor, Dr. and Mayor Chris Herod, who came to our Russian River Arundodonax removal. And he's done that 3 times, and he gets in there and really helped remove that. And the work that we've done with, which started with the Morning Club as well, the Sunrise Club, went to the district. And so that work was recognized by Rotary International. So we had a journalist here doing the story. So I just want to give a shout out for all your help inspiring other Rotarians and also especially the high school students that come out to help. It's great to see someone like you come out. So thank you.
Well, thank you for that. And thank you for bringing this issue to our attention. Did you have something you wanted to add, John? Go ahead.
I just wanted to focus on the monarch butterfly. Now, if you can imagine something as small as a pin flying around the country, the monarch flies at least 5,000 miles in its lifetime. And in certain cases, the lifetime is only 2 weeks. The monarchs that fly around from the East Coast to the West Coast and then to Mexico are the ones that live approximately 30 days, 40 days. But ordinary monarchs only live 2 days. So just keep in mind what's going on with the country, with how we're treating these animals, that we're totally disregarding what they do for us. And that's why I am really hoping that we can change some of the things. At least in Healdsburg, it seems like people are willing to step up to what's happening. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll have you come forward and join us for a photo, please.
Oh, with you?
Yep. Norm, you want to come up?
He's part of it.
Yeah.
I'm not much about this guy here.
Stop it.
All right, squish it in.
Can you get all of this?
Okay. I'm going to turn the camera on first. Good. Time to save the battery. I got that this time. All right, one more. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Mr. Arundel.
All right, thank you, everybody. Moving on now to the city manager report.
Thanks, Mayor, and good evening. Wanted to provide a few different updates. First off, just reminding everybody that this is the City Council's last meeting for several weeks, as the council will take a recess in July. You all know that, but for members of the community, just a reminder, there's a lot going on this summer, and I'd like to go through the mark your calendar, and I'm not going to do that because there's just too much between now and the next meeting. But I'll just note one really important event that is very much in the planning stage, which is the 4th of July. We're planning, as in previous years, a full slate of activity. I know our Rotarians are here and there'll be a lot happening in the morning. There'll be a Prune Packers game. There'll be fireworks in the evening, and all of that planning is very much underway. From a public safety standpoint, we're working on mutual aid as we do to make sure we have the resources in town to support the crowds and upstaffing our emergency response. So we think we're in good shape on that, but I just wanted to let you know that that is happening. We recently saw that Cloverdale is canceling their show this year. I think that was also the case last year. So I don't expect it to dramatically change the crowds here, but it's one of those things we're monitoring. And just a reminder, as always, we're proceeding and fully expecting to hold all of the festivities this year. But it has been hot, it has been windy, and we'll continue to monitor the weather. And if there is a need to pivot, we'll do so. But our expectation is to move forward with the show as usual. Just a couple other updates. Wanted to share and remind people that we had the first meeting last week of the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Station Area Planning process. So that is one more exciting milestone in the kickoff of that. They conducted a Brown Act and governance training and just had an orientation to get the lay of the land with the work that they'll be doing. So very much an introductory meeting, but an important start, and they'll have their next meeting at the beginning of August. So that work is underway. The consultant is under contract, and they've begun document review and some of the early work to get accustomed to and get up to speed with all of our planning documents and plans so that they're ready to go. So that's exciting. And then lastly, I wanted to provide a quick update on a budgetary matter. We obviously adopted the 2-year budget at our last meeting. One of the big question marks in that budget pertained to the L&M Village funding. As adopted, the city was to take on the entirety of the funding for the upcoming year, though, as we explained, and the County Board of Supervisors had previously taken an action to award us $900,000 in funding. Happy to share that they've sent over a funding agreement in the last several days. So assuming, and I don't expect any hiccups, that will secure funding for the upcoming year. And those funds otherwise would have come from Measure S, which is our affordable housing fund. So that's not a surprise, but that is encouraging and takes a little bit of pressure off one of our funds. We continue to be in a familiar place where each year we're looking for the next year. And so now we pivot to that part of the challenge. We've heard encouraging things from the county in terms of looking back to a funding framework that they adopted several years ago when we embarked on this project. But they also adopted their budget last week, and I'm not aware that there's any dedicated funding there. So we will continue to engage. They've engaged with us, and we appreciate that. We'll continue to do it. We'll look at other funding sources. But as I noted, it is a little bit of a familiar rhythm for us at this point to secure 1 year's funding and then get a little bit nervous and scrape for the next year. So we've entered that part of the cycle. I think that's all I have. We have, as I noted, a full slate of events coming up. The Tuesday concerts will continue. The Tianguis Market is monthly at the Foley Pavilion, so that's coming up this week. So we'll stay busy. But I think that's what I have for you this evening. So thank you.
All right, thank you. Do we have any questions or comments for our city manager? I just wanted to mention that I had a brief conversation with Nolan Sullivan from the county at the mayor and council members meeting, and he has been thinking about long-term, what a funding strategy for L&M will be, and is hoping to get back to us in the next couple of weeks. So that was encouraging. And we'll see what comes of that, of course, but we'll keep pushing to make sure that the L&M remains funded without having to dip into our Measure S funds. With whatever we can do and whatever they can do to make sure that happens. And then I just wanted to mention, as far as 4th of July, looking forward to a fun and meaningful holiday. And I know that the mayor and council member Hagley are signed up for the dunk tank this year. Is that true?
Apparently I've been signed up.
Okay.
I didn't know officially, but I'll be happy to do it.
Okay, good. And we were looking forward to a fun day. All right, so we're going to move on now to public comments on items on the consent calendar and non-agenda items. This time is set aside to receive comments from the public on any item of interest to the public within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council, other than scheduled agenda items. Pursuant to the Brown Act, however, the City Council cannot consider any issues or take action on any requests during this comment period. Do we have anyone who'd like to come forward to make a comment? Welcome.
Good evening. My name's Andy Elkind. I'm a Healdsburg resident, and until July 31st, I am Healdsburg's commissioner on the Sonoma County Library Commission. I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you tonight because I wanted to share some very exciting news about the library. You know, for most folks here in Healdsburg, when they think of the library, they think of our Healdsburg branch on Piper and Center Street. Or maybe they think about the Libby app that they have on their phone, or perhaps the Windsor branch on the Green, or the Northwest branch in the Coddington Mall. But what they don't necessarily think about are all the people who work behind the scenes and make the great service that they receive in those branches possible. We have nearly 100 people working in a variety of departments that most patrons never get to see, and this includes administration, finance and budget, human resources, our IT department, facilities, transportation, community engagement, communications, and these folks work out of a facility down in Rohnert Park that the library rents, and the cost of that rent is considerable. For the last couple of years, the library has been on a countywide search for a property that we could acquire and that would serve as our headquarters and administrative center. And I'm pleased to announce that at our commission meeting on Wednesday, the 3rd of June, the commission voted to authorize the purchase of a property that will serve as the headquarters and administrative center for the library. This is great news from a financial perspective. It helps to assure the long-term fiscal health of the library. The purchase won't go through probably until September. We're in the process of working through financing. There will be a public bond issued. None of this should have any impact on the branch here in Healdsburg other than over the long term to make that branch even more efficient and better able to serve the needs of Healdsburg residents. But I thought you might be hearing something about this purchase, and I wanted you to hear it from me. So thank you for your support for the library. I know I'm not supposed to speak on agenda items, but I did want to acknowledge and thank you for taking up the issue of appointing a successor. And I want to assure you that I'm looking forward to working with whomever you select to assure a smooth transition. I appreciate your support. Thanks very much.
Thank you. That's good to hear. Anybody else like to make public comment? Welcome.
Never leave a microphone by itself. I just want to, kudos on the March Avenue rehab. It's just looking great. I crossed that on the way to Geyserville on my bike, and it's looking good. But today, a dozen of us with Anna Grant, you know, who's a leader of the senior center, went and hiked Fitch Mountain, and it's very interesting as parks make better life. And it was a good turnout, and it was a great thing to have. And I just give kudos for having Fitch Mountain Park and open space preserve. Exactly. And also Pollinator Week. Yes, I was there with the mayor and working side by side. And that Arundu stuff is tough. I mean, that is I don't have any real good names for it. So anyways, I just want to thank you for your.
Thank you. Do you have anybody else who'd like to come forward to speak? Welcome.
Okay, members of the council, this is a personal issue. I don't want to over publicize it. I moved here to Healdsburg so my son could go to Healdsburg High School. I tried to commute for 10 years down to Berkeley every day. It was just impossible. So I tried to move here, but it was too hard. But over the last 25 years, because of my unique situation here, I've probably contributed $20,000 to the city that was totally inequitable. When I went to make a complaint to the utility department, I was told, well, go to the mayor or go to the vice mayor. I don't know how to make a contact with them. I did call the mayor a month ago. He didn't call me back, but now I would like to talk to every member of the council about my individual problem that I believe cost me over $20,000, which I shouldn't have had to pay. Completely inequitable, and I'm still dealing with it now. My utility bill, I can't afford to pay it, and it went from $150 that I owed on was March 24th. I went to 25th, but because I went to pay it, I'm always running late. It went up to $800, and now I don't know what it is. But I don't want to take the time of the public to deal with my individual problem. But I would like to contact each person on the council to talk to them about my particular issue individually. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else who'd like to make public comment this evening? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to the consent calendar. And I understand that staff has a change to the consent calendar you'd like to present. Is that right?
That's right. Just a minor typo on page 30 of the packet. It's item 6C. And it's in the resolution. The MOU should be the organization in the MOU. I just had it and then lost it.
Child
The
Parent
MOU.
Institute.
Yes, sorry. The MOU that the city is entering into is with Child Parent Institute. The resolution states that it's SOS, and we just need to correct the name of the organization.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the consent calendar with that change included?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Higley? Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Edwards?
Yes.
Mayor Herod?
Yes, thank you. Okay. We did not have, oh, excuse me. We do have public hearing, and I understand that Councilmember Higley would like to recuse for this item.
Yes, I live within the district that we'll be discussing, or you will be discussing. So I will recuse myself from this item, and I will be outside. Let me know when you're done.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the item is Landscaping and Lighting Assessment District with Park Superintendent Jaime Licia. We'll open the public hearing with this presentation. Welcome.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, council members. I'm Alicia, Parks and Open Space Superintendent for Community Services. And along with me tonight is also Jenny Millman. She's a supervising engineer for Coastal Engineering. And I will be providing you this year's assessment district presentation. I will start off by providing staff's recommended action for tonight's agenda item. Number one is hold a public hearing and receive public comments or protests on the annual engineer's report. The proposed budget for the Healdsburg Landscape and Assessment District. Number two, adopt by resolution the annual engineer's report, confirming the assessment diagram and annual assessment amounts, and the levying and collection of assessments for fiscal year 2026-27 for the assessment district. Thank you. A little bit of background on the assessment district. So the city of Healdsburg formed an assessment district back in 1996, and it was established under the Landscaping and Lighting Act of 1972 to help fund maintenance and operations and landscaping improvements within the public right-of-way for riparian areas and park areas within the city of Healdsburg. Next slide, please. Thank you. 100% of the funds collected from the assessment district help maintain vegetation maintenance such as tree work, high weed mowing, things like that. It also helps with fire fuel reduction work. We have a few properties at the north end of town that are part of the assessment district that we maintain for reducing ladder fuels and things like that. We also maintain the North Detention Basin from a vegetation component. The basin is considered a dam by the State Division of Dam Safety, so we mow it about 2 or 3 times a year. And it also helps with park maintenance for parks such as Sorrento and Barbieri Park for things like mowing and blowing, things like that. And 100% of the utilities associated with the landscaping lighting district are funded by the assessment district. Next slide, please. The annual engineer's report is required through a three-step process. The first step was the first council meeting back in February, where council appointed Coastline Engineering as the engineer of work and directed the preparation of the annual engineer's report. The second step in the process was where council preliminary approved the annual engineer's report and set the date and time for the public hearing. And tonight is the third step in the process, which is consider the public hearing. Next slide. Here we have a map illustrating all 7 zones within the district. Zones 1 through 4 are located on the north end of town, north of the community center off Healdsburg Avenue and Parkland Farms Boulevard. Zone 5 is west of the firehouse, Larkspur Drive. Zone 6 is the corner of Monte Vista and Healdsburg Avenue. And then our newest zone was Mill District, and that is Zone 7, located south of the roundabout. Next slide. Here we have a table identifying all 7 zones. In the middle column, you'll see the current annual assessments for fiscal year 2025-26. And then in the third and final column, you'll see the proposed assessments for fiscal year 2026-27. Zones 1, 2, 4, and 6, you'll see them highlighted in green. Those zones are proposed to be decreased as from previously from last year, and that is due to no projects being identified in those zones. Zones 3, 5, and 7, they'll remain consistent. No projects identified in those zones, but we did have a little bit of utility costs and staffing increases in those zones. And I'm happy to report that all 7 zones are within the required city's reserve policy of 50%. I will provide staff's recommended action one more time for tonight's meeting is number 1, hold a public hearing and receive public comments or protests on the annual engineer's report, the proposed budget for the Healdsburg Landscape and Lighting Assessment District. And then number 2 is adopt by resolution the annual engineer's report, confirming the assessment diagram and annual assessment amounts, and the levying and collection of assessments for fiscal year 2026-27 for the assessment district. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. I'd like to go ahead and move to our public comment section for this public hearing. Is there anybody here who'd like to come forward to make a comment on this item? Okay, seeing none, we'll close the public comment and bring it back to council. Do we have any questions or concerns for Jaime? No? No. Okay, can we have a motion on this resolution, please?
I just had a comment. I really appreciate the presentation, and I know we review this annually, and when there are projects identified, it certainly makes sense when we need to accrue the funds to do those projects. And it sounds like this year, not only are we staying status quo, but for some of the zones, the fees are going down. And I know for a lot of people in our community who are struggling with just everyday affordability, I appreciate that those fees will be going down and not going up for them this year. So thank you, and appreciate the work. And I'm happy to make the motion if that's okay. To adopt resolution accepting the annual engineer's report, confirming the assessment diagram and annual assessment amounts, and the levying and collecting of assessments for fiscal year 26-27 for the assessment district.
I second that.
Okay, can we have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Kelly.
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Edwards.
Yes.
Mayor Herod.
Yes, and the resolution passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to
We need
business.
Councilmember Hagley back.
Oh, yeah, I guess we do need him.
Director Themig, can you give him a nod?
Give him a minute to come back.
How far?
No. Thank you, yeah. It didn't happen automatically.
Probably didn't know we were.
Well, you know. Okay, we'll move on to item 8A, the railroad quiet zone analysis with Public Works Director Larry Zimmer. Welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Harrod and Council. Next slide, please. The action tonight is to enter into a professional services agreement with a consultant called Rail Pros to perform the quiet zone analysis and ultimately submit a report to the Federal Rail Administration. This is a pretty simple action, relatively insignificant, but obviously part of a very significant transformative project to bring passenger rail to the city. So we felt it was a good opportunity to sort of expose part of the process to the public tonight. One of the questions we get asked is, why is the city doing this? Only the public entity that has authority over the road crossings can enter into a quiet zone. SMART cannot. So that is why the city is going through this process. Next slide, please. Just starting with some real simple background, the Federal Rail Administration, FRA, is the one that establishes the process for creating quiet zone. They also have all of the rules for when an engineer blows a horn, how they blow it. The regulation is up on the screen if anyone would like to dig deeper. Next slide, please. So FRA dictates how that horn is used in different circumstances. And the whole point of that is to be uniform and consistent so that whatever state you're in and you hear the horn blowing, you know that the train is about to cross a roadway or a pedestrian crossing. This is the standard pattern if there is a quiet zone or not. Next slide, please. So obviously they blow the horn to warn people, but what some people do not understand is the train engineer is required by law to do it under certain circumstances. It is not optional. It is not their choice. They are not doing this to annoy the neighbors. Having worked in a city where the train started, the horns are very disruptive, particularly at first. And if there isn't a quiet zone, you will hear a fair number of complaints. And so it's important to understand this is a requirement. Next slide, please. So regardless of if it's a quiet zone or not, there are still circumstances where the engineer must blow the horn. A few of them are up on the screen, obviously, again, for safety reasons. Next slide, please. So this was a great line here. Rather than call it a quiet zone, it is a no regular use of the train horn zone. It doesn't flow quite as well, but it is far more accurate. Trains are still noisy and they will be heard, and there will be times when the horn does blow. Other important things to know about a quiet zone is that it has to include all of the crossings, whether they're public or private, whether they're pedestrian or vehicular, within that quiet zone for it to function as a quiet zone to get approved. Next slide, please. So this is just a simple slide of all the crossings within the city and a few without. You can see at the south end, we've included Grant and Balash, and at the north end, Lytton Springs. The same consultant we're using is being used by the county to create their quiet zone. So they're investigating the area between Windsor and Healdsburg as well. Next slide, please. So one of the questions is what work is Rail Pros actually doing? It's a significant amount of money. I will say it's a not to exceed amount, and we're hoping it will be less. They perform a safety analysis at each of the crossings to make sure that there are adequate safety measures, to be able to go through what is an online calculator through FRA to make sure it meets the qualifications of a quiet zone. It's a relatively long iterative process. They work with the city and with SMART to make sure that these safety measures, which is typically the gates, how the gates are designed, are they the quad gates? Is there a median? It's all looking at whether a vehicle could get around a gate if it so chose to, or are the pedestrians covered? It's all that simple, what seems like simple kind of safety precautions, but it differentiates the regular from a quiet zone. And so SMART is well-versed in all of this. They are designing our system to be a quiet zone, but there's this additional step of creating this report, which this consultant will do, submitting it to the FRA. Ultimately, this is going to come back to council twice because there will be a notice of intent to establish a quiet zone and then a notice of establishment. So you will see it 2 more times before this is over. If you remember, Windsor was a little late in creating their quiet zone. All of the work, I believe, was done accordingly. It was just this process of getting the FRA approval and getting their approval through the town council. So we are trying to be out ahead of it and have it in place before trains start running. Also, just to share, there's a lot of work going on behind the scenes with staff and SMART, not necessarily related to this item. A lot to do with the utility crossings. The SMART is out there potholing right now. They're depending on the situation, the city is likely responsible for many of these upgraded crossings if they're not deep enough, if they need casings, if they need to be relocated, or in some cases, if the city's concerned that the crossings are old and need to be replaced, or we think they're going to need to be upsized for higher capacity in the future. So staff has been working for a very long time and many meetings with SMART on this process. And again, just trying to inform the public that there is a lot going on, even though it's not being discussed all that much at council right now. Next slide, please. So here's again the action. We'll wait for the questions for the next slide. We're approving that professional services agreement with Rail Pros to perform this analysis. A couple of the questions that I will probably get, or we get from the public a lot. The end of this calendar year, SMART is hoping to have a final design and be starting on real construction. They have not provided us a specific schedule, but that is what we have been told. The bridge work is expected next summer, and they are still planning on a December 2028 commencement of passenger service. If I were a betting man, I would bet the over, but if anyone could do it, SMART does deliver far quicker than people expect. So with that, I'm opening it up for any questions.
All right, do we have any clarifying questions about the presentation before we go to public comment on this? Yeah, go ahead.
So on the slide, you say, assuming the calculations demonstrate city is eligible for a quiet zone. What does that, I get what it means, but how does that work?
Well, again, it's not a guarantee. SMART has been through this. City staff has been through this at other agencies, and we believe very strongly that the city will be eligible for a quiet zone. But there can be a situation where it doesn't meet those calculations. And again, they look at the calculations as a whole corridor, and I'm certainly not an expert in this, which is why we're hiring this consultant. But as they run through these calculations, if it doesn't pass as a quiet zone, then it's the iteration of what do we need to do? One of the examples is sometimes you put in a median, a raised median that can prevent certain movements, or you have to move a sidewalk to adjust it so that it can be closed off more properly with the gates than it would otherwise, or adding of fences, that type of thing. If that answered your question, I hope.
Yes, thank you.
You had mentioned all the testing that's going on now. This might not be quite as related to the quiet zone, but a little bit. And some of those improvements are going to be the responsibility of the city to cover. And so is there a potential, so if we don't get the quiet zone designation, but, oh, you do this, this, and this, it would be on the city to do those upgrades, like the curbs and everything that you mentioned, and maybe you could clarify a little bit about where SMART's dollar stops and the city's starts.
That is an excellent question, and unfortunately, I am not going to be able to answer that. There will be some future conversations as we start getting into the cost of the different projects that we're talking about, utility, quiet zone, otherwise, where SMART is participating. It depends a lot on whatever agreements the city and SMART have in place. And some of it is negotiated to some extent too. So I'm sorry, I cannot provide an answer. It is a difficult one because it's based on very individual circumstances.
And then I guess as a follow-up, if we were obligated to do something, what fund would you see that coming from?
Well, we have most of it, the surface work would come from our street fund, which could include general fund or TOT, well, probably not TOT, general fund or Measure T is what I meant to say. The underground work would obviously come from the utilities that are being moved. And we did budget some money in anticipation of future projects for SMART.
Vice Mayor?
Yeah, so during the process, you said it comes back to council a couple of times, and each of those times there'll be time for public comment on these as far as quiet zone, their input on it, or is it strictly just us interacting with the consultant?
As always, there's opportunity for public comments. This is sort of a yes or no. Do we qualify for a quiet zone? Because I don't think anyone in the city wants to not have a quiet zone. So their job is to work with SMART, work with the city to make sure we're qualified for a quiet zone. The council steps are really just part of the required FRA process. We do this notice of intent to file for a quiet zone. It is required through the FRA regulations.
And then the purpose of the non-quiet part of the zone or the horn blowing is for public safety and traffic safety?
Yes. So if this occurs, it would be the entire city would be a quiet zone. But again, a quiet zone isn't necessarily quiet. It changes the rules of when the engineer is required to blow a horn. So they will still blow their horn for various reasons, but they will do it less than they would have if you didn't have a quiet zone.
And the consultant will provide us a list of what those times are, or how do we know what?
It's, as it was shown in the presentation, if they have a known malfunction, if there's someone or an animal on the tracks, if there's, anything out of the ordinary, there's probably a very long list of rules that these trained engineers know that if it's in this circumstance, they need to blow the horn.
All right. I'm just thinking the public would, they may think we have a quiet zone for the city and they heard the horn. So I just wanted to know if that would be available.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Do you have anything? I have a question. In this, I guess, somewhat unlikely case of this community wanting to end their quiet zone status, say there was a safety problem and people change their minds about wanting that, what would be the procedure? Would we be able to, do we have to go through a process to?
I do not know. I don't see that the rail authority or SMART would necessarily have any objection. Blowing the horn is safer than not blowing the horn. And if the unforeseen circumstance that was council and the community's wishes, I think we could get it done, but I do not know the process.
Do we know how many applications are denied? Do you have a rough percentage of community?
I do not know, but we know Petaluma was successful. We know Windsor and Santa Rosa were successful. I'm not positive of all of Santa Rosa, but I believe so. And I'm expecting that we will be successful as well.
Okay. And I'm just curious how many, this is pretty specialized, how many consultants are available to do this kind of work? Is it just this one or?
I do not know. We specifically hired this through a sole source process because they are working with the county. It would have created some inefficiencies and difficulties with having the Balash Grant Street being worked on by one agency rather than one consultant rather than doing it all together.
Sure.
Even though it's through two different agencies, they're helping to coordinate that work.
Okay, thank you.
But there's probably not a lot.
Right. Okay. I'd like to open it up for public comment on this item. Is there anybody who'd like to come forward to speak about this? All right, seeing none, we'll close public comment and bring it back to the council. Do we have a motion or a further comment or question? Go ahead.
I move that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a professional services agreement with Rail Pros in the not to exceed amount of $148,909 to perform a quiet zone feasibility analysis and risk calculation, as well as prepare documentation to issue a notice of intent and notice of establishment from the quiet zone in accordance with federal rail administration requirements. The action also includes authorizing a budget amendment in the not to exceed amount of $148,909 to amend the fiscal year 2026-27 budget as shown in Exhibit A to the resolution for this item.
Second, before we call the question, can I just make a comment?
Sure.
I really appreciate all the thoughtful questions on this. And I think from what I gather and what we've observed in other cities, I'm delighted that we are being so proactive about this because as you may have heard or read on the angry comments on social media, that Windsor applied much later and it took quite some time for their application to get processed and they had to make some changes to some of their crossings. And so SMART had a not so welcome addition to town because of the time of day and the horn blaring that had to happen every single time on every single train because they didn't establish the quiet zone until many months after the train had already started coming to town. So we are being proactive and I think it's a good thing. That said, I think to Councilmember Higley's point about what happens when this analysis may uncover some of the changes that need to be taken in order for us to qualify for a quiet zone. It sounds as though we're going to have a number of different opportunities along the way to really better understand what are those safety improvements that are going to have to get put into place so that we are, certain that by removing the blaring horn, by making it a more quiet zone, that we also are protecting people in the community. And so I think those decision points, especially around what will the cost be, what if they are identified that we have to make these changes, what's the cost, and then who pays for it between us and SMART. I think those are all the public meetings yet to come where the community will have a chance to weigh in and where we'll have an opportunity to get a better understanding of what are we going to be potentially on the hook for or not, and then can make those decisions. But this is just kind of the kickoff point of what I'm guessing is going to be a process. So
yeah, appreciate that comment. Okay, and we did get a second, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Higley?
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly?
yes.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Edwards?
Yes.
Mayor Harrod?
Yes. All right, and the motion passes. We'll move on now to the Abel de Luna Community Center Multicultural Center and Resilience Hub Tier 1 Painting Contract Award with Community Services Director Themig. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, members of council. I'm here on behalf of Tom Campbell, our project manager, and also several members of the design team who I want to be sure and recognize. First of all, Cristal Lopez Pardo is here from Corazon. She's going to talk a little bit about the design team's work in this project. On Zoom, we have Doug Thornley, who is with Goring and Straha Architects. He was the principal and the primary designer. So if you have specific questions about the design intent and how the process developed and the colors, he's a really good resource and we can certainly bring him up. And then third, Amy Ramirez from the Healthcare Foundation of Northern Sonoma County has been really instrumental in moving this project forward from its original implementation in the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion plan. So part of what I'll present tonight is really continuing one of your goals that carried over from last year, and that is to continue to develop funding and implementation strategies for this multicultural center concept. So next slide, please. So what we're asking for tonight is to adopt a resolution essentially awarding the painting contract, which would fulfill the first tier of this project. And I'll talk a little bit more about the project itself and how the tiers have evolved. You've seen some of this previously, so I'll keep it high level, but feel free to stop me if you have specific questions. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the concept of a multicultural center really was one of the core outcomes of the diversity and equity and inclusion plan that the city adopted in 2023. It didn't define what it is, but it provided that context of this would be something that the community would embrace. The Healthcare Foundation of Northern Sonoma County took that initiative, went out and got funding to do the project. And through that process, identified the community center as a really trusted place by our community and the ideal location to really expand the services that we currently do to incorporate more multicultural center concepts on that. I'll talk a little bit more about the actual process as we move forward. So next slide, please. So with that, the Corazon Healdsburg and the Healthcare Foundation took the lead in kind of working on this project and developed the report that you reviewed previously. Next slide, please. So through a number of different meetings that they held with the community, some of them were targeted, some of them were more opening. The process identified really essentially 10 mandates or goals for the Multicultural Center. Next slide, please. So those were to create a space for movement and play, community kitchen and cafe, collaborative murals, sensory aware design, spaces for creative expression, environmental justice, lifelong learning, community gathering spaces, digital access and literacy, and access, autonomy, accountability, and justice. Next slide, please. So the plan is long-term and is visionary. It essentially builds on what the city did in determining or developing kind of an overall master plan for the community center back in about 2014, where it talked about what the site could be, in addition to being a school, essentially repurposed school. And so this is a long-term vision. So on the far north side, the right side of this, is an open area, community gathering area. The parking lot currently shown where it exists right now. Rehabilitation of the existing building, which we'll talk about more today, and then adding amenities on the south side, including more established parking. Next slide, please. So that's the grand vision. But there were three more focused, what they called tiers, that came out of this process that were likely more achievable in the short term. So the first tier was to essentially repaint the building. It is very institutional. When I came here in 2015, it was mauve and pink with a lot of mold on it. The city did a project in 2016 to repaint it, and we kept kind of that similar kind of institutional approach, but we went with brown and tan. So we changed the colors, but essentially very much institutional. The first tier really re-envisions that and tries to create an environment that's more welcoming, more exciting, more enticing. So you'll hear more about that today. The second tier is to renovate the internal areas. So the courtyard, we currently have an amphitheater that is seldom used. It takes up quite a bit of space. People walk around it versus utilizing it. So that's really the second tier, is to revitalize those internal corridor spaces. And the third tier is to renovate the much needed multi-purpose room that has definitely seen its day in terms of lots of use, lots of activity, both as a school and as a community center. Next slide, please. So what I'd like to do is to invite Cristal to talk a little bit about the Design Advisory Committee's work, what they did in developing the plan for Tier 1, which is what you're asked to approve a contract for tonight.
Hi, everyone. Mark, could you go back to the tiers? just to talk about the advisory committee that was formed. And then I just saw this right now, for those who are watching in the audience. The plants and the shading will happen in the second tier. So this very first tier, we're only talking about exterior color and murals that will go on the community center, the Abel de Luna Community Center. But I'm here to talk a little bit about the nomination process, the advisory committee, and the work that we've been doing. I know Mayor Herod and Councilmember Edwards, we've been to some of the sessions and got to listen in a bit. So we launched the application or the nomination process, as we call it, in March, and this was open to the public, members who live or work in the city of Healdsburg, and folks were able to either self-nominate or nominate someone else who they believed could provide some key insight and just a different perspective for community members to listen in and be part of the deciding factor for the color and the murals of the first tier. As I mentioned, this design advisory committee is only focused on tier 1. So for the second and the third tier, we hope to launch a new advisory committee with new members who will specifically focus on those additional mandates there. And we were specifically looking for individuals who care deeply about the community center and the community here in Healdsburg. We were looking for individuals of diverse backgrounds, diverse in age, in abilities, in gender, in race, in language, and in lived experience. But specifically, as you all do for commissions, really wanting to understand what their interest behind the community center was, if there was any history or experience. And we're happy to report that every individual who either self-nominated or nominated someone else was able to join the advisory committee. And then we actually went into the Healdsburg High School space and outreach to youth, because we wanted to make sure that we had youth participating in the design process for the Multicultural Center, as it will be the space for future generations. And if we can go to the next slide. So for the Design Advisory Committee, we selected 15 members to be part of this process. And I do want to name them out because I think they have been engaged since March, and they will end their engagement in September when we begin the painting phase of this project. The advisory committee members included 10 adults and 5 youth. The 10 adults include Ceci Beltran, Lupe Lopez, Rina Charles, Veronica Ledesma, Christine Webster, Monica Herrera, Rose Garcia, Mari Garcia, Fausto Guzman, and Linus Lancaster, each who have ties to the city of Healdsburg, different languages, different perspectives, as I mentioned before. The 5 youth included in the project included Jonathan Mesa, Josie Ramirez, Roy Abarca, Gabriel Gonzalez, and Dulce Solano, all with very different perspectives as well and lived experiences here in Healdsburg. And we also had other community members who were interested in the project but didn't want to participate in it as a committee member. We had Ted Calvert, who I want to mention because he was a former board member when the school was actually being built and was part of the approval process to make sure that Foss Creek School existed then. Rebecca Miller and Mark McMullen, both of them who are dedicated to the arts here in Healdsburg and who participated along the way. 2 muralists, Jake Messing and Blanca Molina. And then we also had some folks I mentioned, Chris Herod, Ron Edwards, Gina Reiner from the Art and Culture Commission also attended some of the sessions. And then other additional city staff members, Corazon staff members, and then the Healthcare Foundation members. 70% of the individuals who are part of the Design Advisory Committee reported having ties back to Foss Creek School, whether they attended the school or whether they had their children attend the school. So they had a special place for this building, for the community center. Next slide. And this whole process was participatory from the very beginning when community members self-nominated or nominated each other. Every session, there is a voting factor. So the first few sessions we had, as you can see here in the picture, we had members create their own palette of potential color. This is with no expertise other than lived experience, but what colors would they envision the community center being? These colors went out to public voting, and so there was a participatory survey, which the city supported us with outreaching as well, posting it on their website and online. We posted it on our website and online as well. We received 200 responses from community members, aside from the participants in these sessions, and we were able to narrow down the color palettes. The survey, both online and in person at the community center, had 3 questions. Which colors would you love to see? Which colors would you not want to see? And then a question about feelings and sentiments and color palettes. And next slide, please. Okay. So we have 7 sessions scheduled. We've currently completed 5 of the sessions. We have one more session happening in June, and we're actually in the phase of looking at mural designs. During session 5 and 6, the participants were able to convey to the muralists both Jake Messing and Blanca Molina, who have connections to Healdsburg. Jake Messing as a resident of Healdsburg, and Blanca Molina as a former resident of Healdsburg, now of Cloverdale, but still with deep ties to Healdsburg. They were able to convey their needs, aspirations as to why they wanted certain elements or components added to the mural. And Jake Messing and Blanca Molina were able to listen in during this process. In the last session we saw, which just happened last week on Tuesday, which just shows their commitment, because we had Rocio La Dama de la Cumbia here, and nobody wants to miss Rocio. And we had participants join and see the first rendering of the murals. I don't have those with me, and I didn't bring those on purpose because there are some tweaks that the advisory committee, has asked for those renderings. So we don't have a final rendering just yet. We will share those with you as soon as we have those available. And in the next session, we'll have the final renderings available for final approval from the design advisory committee, which would lead us then to the process of painting first the building and then painting the murals. And the mural painting will also be participatory, so community members, even if they weren't part of the process, either as a design advisory committee member or just in the know, will be able to participate and be part of the execution of this mural. Next slide. And then finally, I think something that we do want to convey with everyone in the audience and with our city council members is that this project is really a long time coming project. It calls for a multi-generational approach, a multi-generational space for community members to gather as their children are playing sports in the back, that the parents are able to participate in some type of workshop or learning in that space, which is already happening. And to recognize that community members, although they're not experts necessarily in architecture and design, that they're everyday interactions and that their lived experience is valuable in this process. Josie, who's pictured in this specific image here, she's the gal with the pink hair and the pink shirt. She mentioned as a sophomore in high school that she feels like she's finally part of a process, a positive process in community, and she feels like she's part of something. And it's been super exciting to see both youth and adults be part of a process where the information is being offered in both Spanish and English. So the session is bilingual, and community members can see their feedback and just like their comments come to life, both through the renderings of the colors when Doug and his architect team created those renderings, but also through the mural design process with Jake and Blanca. And I think this overall process has been meaningful in many ways, creating a sense of belonging community, and a sense of expression for community members. The colors that you will see that Doug will present after are not your typical building colors. They're quite different. And it's been so special to witness this process since 2024 when the first master plan for this project was created and community members said, I want to see a bright space, a space that's welcoming of all, and to see that the design advisory committee stuck to that and it's now coming to fruition, and hopefully by the end of this year, 2026, we will have a bright multicultural space. Abel de Luna Community Center will be beautiful both through mural designs and through color. So super excited.
Next slide. So we'll walk through the actual painting scheme or proposal now so you have a better idea of what the building will look like. The design intent is really based on two very famous architects who use vibrant colors. They're Latino architects, lots of orange, purple, pink, and it's really intended to be create a sense of vibrancy for the facility in addition to the people who use it. The first set of illustrations that we'll show you are elevations, and they're not super easy to understand. And then there are a set of renderings that we'll walk through that are more visual and actually show the spaces in the proposed colors. So next slide, please. This first slide shows, for example, the front of the building. Oh, I can't actually show you with mine. On the top row, that would be the entrance painted in yellow, the larger multi-purpose room painted in that maroon/pink color. And these colors don't represent too well on this slideshow. They're a bit different than what show here, but the general intent. And then you'll see the oranges that are spaced throughout the building as well. Next slide, please. This takes you to some of the internal spaces. The internal spaces have some purples and orange colors, as well as accent with yellow. Next slide, please. Again, more internal spaces in the building. Next slide, please. And this is the portable classrooms that we lease out. One of the things that this plan does is it helps identify where to go in the building by the color. So a lot of people come into the front office and they're like, where's Corazon space? And we're like, it's down the hall to the right. And we'll be able to say now, follow the hallway to the pink section of the building. It's one of the benefits of this color scheme in addition to creating vibrancy and bringing more life to the building. Next slide, please. Again, more colors, more elevation drawings of the interior spaces. Next slide, please. So this is a visual bird's eye view looking down of how the different colors are applied. The main hallway that extends through the building is in the yellow, and then you'll see that the other corridors feed off of that into different colors, leading you to different destinations. Next slide, please. So now we're going to look at some actual renderings of what the final product would theoretically look like. The renderings that you're going to see also show the tier 2 and the tier 3 improvements. So I want to be clear, those are not being proposed right now. There's a whole nother design process that would happen for those. So when you see things like the multi-purpose room being renovated, makes you excited, not going to happen just yet. So I'll try to point those out as we walk through. So this would be a view as you walk into the building to give you an idea of the color scheme. The yellow entrance brings you right into the building. Next slide, please. This is the internal courtyard. This is one of the areas where the improvements or the renderings show what would happen in the future. This shows the actual amphitheater being essentially filled in and elevated to create more space, as well as more shade, new landscaping, things like that that would come down the road. But again, it gives you an idea of the colors. The large violet on the right-hand side is the back side of the multi-purpose room. The left orange would be about where the YWCA preschools program is, and then you can see the yellow walkway through the center. Next slide, please. This takes you like right at the entrance near our offices, looking inward. Again, courtyard improvements are shown as completed in here. Those would come in the future. Next slide, please. This is actually a design idea for the community meeting room, the old library where we have lots of meetings, where we open up that wall, create this essentially indoor-outdoor space to make it more inviting. And this shows that area where it's currently landscape actually filled in with hardscape. Next slide, please. And this is the back corridor showing landscape area in between the two classroom areas. This actually probably couldn't happen because of the way that space is used by kids coming and going, especially for day camp and other activities. So this landscape would probably be scaled down just a bit. Next slide, please. So one of the things that we and the architects work quite a bit on is how do you ensure that these colors remain vibrant over time? They are very bright colors. So they did quite a bit of research on what are the best long-term sustainable paints that you can use. And they chose the Benjamin Moore Aura brand with a long-lasting lifespan of about 10 to 15 years. Not too far off what a typical painting job would last on a commercial building. Has great washability. We'll be able to clean it off if there's vandalism, and we'll be able to do touch-ups relatively easily. Next slide, please. So the city solicited bids. Our estimate for the project was right around $500,000. We were very pleased to see the bids come in, the base bid at about $98,000, and we were proposing that we also include all three alternates for a total cost of $156,000 plus a 12% contingency in case something comes up during the painting process that they have to repair or fix. Next slide, please. So our timeline, we anticipate starting as soon as summer camp is over on August 14th, completed by October 30th at the latest. We think that the painting contractor will be able to move relatively quickly, depending on the weather, and complete it probably sometime in the September timeframe. The October 30th also includes the mural project, which Cristal talked about, which will come back to you for review as part of the public art policy at a future meeting. Next slide. So the requested action is to approve a contract for Tier 1, which is the repainting of the community center. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and I have resources available if I cannot.
All right, thank you. That was a great presentation, very inspiring. Glad to see these images again and see this moving forward. Do we have any questions or concerns from the council before we go to public comment? Yes, sir.
I just have one question. When is that next June meeting going to be?
June 30th, 6 p.m. at the Verde Luna Community Center.
Go ahead.
I just want to confirm that the murals are going to come, they'll do the normal thing where they'll go through the Arts and Culture Commission and then come to council. So we'll be able to see it at our feedback and comments before it's just done.
Correct.
Okay.
All right. All right, let's go ahead and go to public comment then. Is there anybody here who'd like to speak on this item? Please come forward. Okay, seeing none, we'll close public comment, bring it back to council. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just, if it's not clear, the amount of involvement that went into this, it was really nice attending the meetings. It wasn't just putting colors up in a room and taking a look at it. We actually walked from location to location with a color palette to actually take a look and see how it would work. And the involvement with the adults, the youth, it was really an invigorating process to see that happening, the community coming out and supporting this. And so just the amount of time, I wanted to thank you guys for how much effort you've put into this to this point. So thank you.
I concur. I was excited to hear that you're going to do a new group for the second tier because it's obvious that the people who are involved with this had a really positive experience with public input and involvement, and that's a really wonderful thing to spread it in the community at large. And so if we can keep that flowing, that's really fantastic. You did a really great job of making sure that a lot of different types of people were represented, and they, I think, did a spectacular job with the color selection. It was way beyond what I would have gone to myself personally, and so it was really thrilling to see them come together around a really bold and I think inviting vision for this multicultural center. Right.
It's great to see this project proceeding forward, and I think the color palette and especially the way that the architecture is and the site as it exists now with a lot of different courtyards and open air segments, that this natural sunlight or shade will create some really interesting levels of depth to the colors that have been chosen that you really don't experience now because the colors are so kind of muted now. So it's definitely going to be very bright and inviting and interesting and culturally relevant. And it's great to see the concept of like using colors as a means for wayfinding, because you have so many different user groups already using that site with like Alliance Medical Center there and the preschool program with YWCA and obviously Corazon. And so, and the community center programming with community services as well. And so it's, an interesting way to navigate through the building. And I think also a universal language of color, which is also helpful. I think often when you have people utilizing the space who might not be native English speakers. I know when we used to have the English classes for adults, there were like 15 languages being spoken in that classroom because you can teach English to adults in any language, like all in the same language. And so people in the room was a very international audience. There were people coming from Southeast Asia and a lot of different places that you don't, people who speak indigenous languages of Mexico. And so I remember the challenges when people would come into the community services office and ask, like, how do I find the class? And people responding in Spanish, like assuming, English and Spanish are the two predominant languages in our community. But then there you have all these people who are coming from very far off places who happen to find Healdsburg, as their home. And so I think it's an interesting way to help people navigate the building and create what is, defined as a multicultural center, and using color as a means to wayfind through the space is a really interesting, creative way to do that. So great. It's wonderful to see and excited to have the community so involved in the process too. It's fun. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that, this isn't just about color and paint. This really is signaling a really bold transformation of this space and what it's going to mean to people and what it's going to be. So it's very transformational. And so with that, at that level, I think it's super exciting that this is happening. Any other questions, concerns, or a motion?
Yeah. You want to make the motion?
No, I was gonna make a call.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the paint colors. I think some of the things that are planned looked really cool. Not to throw a wet blanket on everything, but this whole process I've kind of struggled with. Seems like it's kind of been backwards. Instead of the city leading it, it's, the multicultural report was not something that the city commissioned. That was an outside nonprofit that just did that and ran with it. And I get it. Here's money. So we're going to move forward. I'm grateful for it because it is making the property look a lot better. But I do struggle with the process on how this was done, especially delegating, subcommittees that aren't through the city, so to speak. So we have sounds like there's additional subcommittees that are going to be forming. I would like a little bit more of that to flow through the city. We get applications. We kind of have, little background, kind of understanding who is applying. And so to me that, I feel like there should be a little bit of input from the city, and it kind of needs to shift back to flowing through the city versus just delegating everything over to a nonprofit to run. And then the second part included in this presentation was the master plan concept, which again is not something that we really discussed here at the city level. There's really no parking on site and some of these other things. And so I just wanted clarity from staff when we set our goal that says Abel de Luna Community Center, Multicultural Center, continue to develop funding and implementation strategy. Is that for phase 1 only, phase 1, 2, and 3, all the way to the master plan concept?
It's phase 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Because that's really what was identified in the plan. The overall master plan is one of those great visions that may take, years or decades to achieve, that would definitely require more input. So it's really tiers 1, 2, and 3.
Okay.
Crystal, did you want to
Yeah.
address that question?
I just want to add, and I didn't add this as part of my presentation because I really wanted to focus on the design advisory committee. But along the whole process, the city of Healdsburg has been very involved, and to your points, there should be a concern if the city is not involved in this process, right? Given the fact that it is a city building. Throughout the whole process, I know Tom was unable to be here, but he's been in all of our meetings designing this from the very beginning, from the start of this process, telling us when we got the green light and when we didn't have the green light for a lot of the things that we had. Community members have big ideas, right? And sometimes those can't come to fruition right away, but those are things that we can put in the back burner and think about. One of those being a mural on the back of the community center. And, we understood and we heard that was not possible at this moment. So rethinking where we could put a mural was all in communication with the city of Healdsburg, making sure that they were okay with the process along the way, and ensuring that Tom was in all of our meetings, from the planning meetings at the very beginning when we were just co-creating the application for nomination, for self-nomination, and to nominate others. That was brought to the city of Healdsburg to look at. When the nominations came in, that opportunity to see the applicants was available as well. And then throughout the bidding process, the color selection, the mural designs, we've had Tom involved from start to finish in that process as well. So I didn't share that because I was told to share just about the design advisory committee, but we appreciate the collaboration with the city of Healdsburg. And I know that there's 100 million things going on in our city all at once, and that the priority, financial priority, was not there for the multicultural center. And so we took an initiative to ensure that we could fund this project and for it to come to life. And we know of other projects and other master plans that sometimes just sit in shelves in other cities and at the state level as well. And we wanted to make sure that our projects, the projects that we have co-created in community, can come to life. And super appreciative about this process and our relationship with the city, with Mark, with Tom, with Ray, who attended. I know he's here present today, attended those meetings to understand what was going on and to be able to communicate that back to our residents in Healdsburg.
So I appreciate that, and I appreciate that background. I think my concern is more, it sounds like it might be between city council and staff, because staff and the nonprofits are having great communication moving along. I think it's keeping us informed on the steps on what's going on. Here are the members of the committees. Here's kind of the direction they're going, so that we're in the know, versus we formed a committee. Here's all, and here are the colors. Please approve. And I get it. I've gotten a couple of the invites to, we're doing the planning session that you attended, but that's not a formal city council meeting where the entire community has access, and it's really a public forum to have these discussions. And so I think that's going forward. That's kind of what I would like to, make sure that we're a little bit more sensitive about moving forward. But aside from that, I'm ready to support the adoption.
Vice Mayor?
I think one of the things that would be helpful, attending it is different, but I like what we've got further in the agenda is the written reports that you have, the comments. And I think that if you, Director Theming, would provide those recaps to the balance of the council for members who weren't there, it would be helpful for them to maybe get a better understanding of actually what's going on, rather than, I can see your point of if you hadn't attended the meetings and have the time to be there, this is kind of all of a sudden, it's like, boom, here's the colors, here's everything, without knowing the process and being involved in it. So I think that might be helpful going forward.
Well, and like Crystal said, it's, it is a city property, and we have a number of tenants there, multiple different tenants, but at the end of the day, we are the landlord, we are the owner of the property. And so we should be informed on the process and what's going on and that sort of thing, so.
I know like for a number of years, probably a decade now with the creative leadership team, when the city started the arts and culture master planning process, the community services department went out and recruited dozens of community members to join the creative leadership team. And that was not a formal process where the city council was interviewing people and appointing people to that committee. Then we had the parks design team when the community members were engaged to design community parks, and then they, so I think, and then the city council received, updates with the master planning process for the parks and the arts and culture master plan that got brought back to council. And so I liken this process to those other two processes that were also led by community services. I don't have the same reservations that Councilmember Hagley has with respect to should we have a formal application process that flows through the council. Tonight we're appointing two commissioners for two formal commissions that are like Brown Act entities. And we got very few applications for those. And so we're actually getting really great community participation from all walks of life and getting youth engaged, which is really impossible to do in this day and age. So I'm delighted that this initiative is happening. And I think just, in echoing the comments, if we can get, written report out, does not have to be super lengthy about, hey, this group is convening, here are the members, this is what's going on. I think it's wonderful that community members want to pick colors for this site and that now we're getting a chance to offer that feedback. And I don't feel that like we need to kind of get more engaged in the weeds of this process, because I think if anything, it in a lot of ways, it kind of may deter some people from wanting to be involved because they may have concerns like, well, what if I'm not the right fit for this committee? And, I've asked a lot of people, hey, we had a vacancy on this commission, why didn't you apply? It's like, oh, I was really nervous. I didn't want to have to be interviewed before the city council members. I wasn't really sure what that would entail. And so I think anything we can do to get, there are 6 members of the public in the room tonight. I hope there's more watching on Zoom, but like anything we can do to engage the community right now at a time when so few people seem to really want to plug in, I want to support that energy and not try to create more barriers to participation. So I think, community services, you guys tend to kind of be the experts in this realm of engaging the community and getting people excited to be involved in some of the really fun stuff that you all are leading. And so to the extent we can, learn from what's happening on the ground, I say 2 thumbs up and happy to see this move forward.
Do you have any more comments from the council? All right, can we entertain a motion, please?
I move to adopt a resolution conditionally awarding the contract for the Abel de Luna Community Center, Multicultural Center, and Resilience Hub Tier 1 painting project to Affordable Quality Painting, Inc., in an amount not to exceed $156,200, and authorizing the city manager to execute the contract and authorizing the city manager to negotiate and approve contract changes orders up to 12% of the original amount.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Councilmember Hagley?
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Edwards?
Yes.
Mayor Herod?
Yes. All right.
Can
Go
I
ahead.
thank also Cristal, of course, Doug Thornley, and Amy Ramirez for being part of this process. So I want to acknowledge their work on this as well as Tom's work. So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 8C, Breathless Wine's request to operate pedicab, the Chief of Police, Matt Jenkins. Welcome.
All right, thank you and good evening. So before you tonight is a request from Breathless Sparkling Wines to operate a pedicab. Next slide, please. Next slide. So just as a little bit way of a background, Breathless Sparkling Wines approached the city requesting permission to operate a 6-passenger electric assist pedicab designed for transportation of customers to and from their tasting room to the plaza. And their idea is to reduce trips between the plaza and the industrial tasting rooms off of Moore Lane, support economic activity and tourism, reduce those short vehicle trips of going back and forth, which encourages that park once and explore mindset. Next slide. Again, as they explore this idea, their purpose and intended impact was to encourage the additional tourist activity to their area off Moore Lane, support plaza restaurants, retailers, and hospitality businesses, and create an enhanced visitor experience that encourages longer stays in Healdsburg. Next slide. So why are we here with the request, and why is the police department presenting this? Well, it comes back to Vehicle Code Section 21215, which requires any pedicab operators to be authorized by local ordinance or resolution. In 2018, when another pedicab operator came forward to the city council at that time decided that they're going to regulate pedicabs via resolution rather than by ordinance. So we're back here today with this, and going back to the vehicle code section. The other requirements are that they cannot be more than 15 passengers. The driver has to be licensed and over 21 years of age. There has to be specified safety equipment, including seat belts, lights, things of those nature. And there's minimum insurance requirements that they're required to have. Next slide, please. So Breathless Wines has proposed a route between their tasting room on Moore Lane and the plaza with two identified stops, one by Dry Creek Kitchen and the other at the corner of Matheson and Center Street next to Acorn Cafe. And they're looking at operating Thursday through Monday from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. And this would be free of charge for people to move back and forth. Next slide. In meeting with the owners, they have committed to staff that they're committed to proper licensing and permitting, complying with local transportation regulations, vehicle safety inspections and maintenance is required, training their operators, passenger safety procedures, continuing to provide insurance as required by law, and adherence to any operational roadway standards established by the city or the state of California. Next slide. So if council were to consider this resolution, staff's recommendation is to have the following conditions, which are consistent with the other operator in town, which is no amplified sound, no consumption of alcohol on the pedicab, that the police department has the ability to review and authorize any subsequent changes to routes. That way we're not having to come back to council for any change that may be required, whether that's due to construction or revised pickup drop-off locations, and allowing the police department the authority to revise routes as needed if there's any significant complaints or operational concerns that arise. Next slide. So alternatives is city council could direct staff to return with a resolution that has different conditions than those that are proposed tonight. Or that council could receive this report and take no action. Doing that would prohibit Breathless Sparkling Wines from operating a pedicab. As I mentioned, they have to either be authorized by resolution or ordinance. Next slide. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. And I'll also note that Sharon, one of the owners at Breathless Sparkling Wines, is here tonight and may be able to answer any specific operational questions that you might have for them.
Okay, thank you. Questions? Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to know, I couldn't find I know we have another pedal cab type facility, and I could not find any route. Was that something that the council approved, or they are able to pick whatever route they want to go? In other words, I'm looking at this, there's a specific route. If they wanted to change the route, would that go through council? Would that just go through you with an approval? What is that process?
Yeah, so when that was proposed back in 2018, there were some routes that were proposed and approved by council. And as part of that process, council delegated the authority for any subsequent approvals to the police department. And we have worked with them over the time as their operations have changed or there's been things going on to update and modify those routes.
And are those routes publicly available, or so that public would know where they're going, what the schedule might be?
We do not have those posted on the website or there. No.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, mine was a similar comment. I was on council when we approved that, and we were pretty clear that it wasn't, that pedicab was not allowed to go through the roundabout. And they are now, and I guess that some of the routes have changed over time. But the big issues at the time for me were the alcohol consumption on the pedicab and then amplified music, which the current one, I've personally heard amplified music on that. So I think my questions are really, it's not so much about that. I think what's being proposed looks fine, but what is the enforcement mechanism? What complaints have you had on the other one that might translate over into something we need to keep an eye on for Breathless?
So I have not received any complaints to the police department on the other one in a significant amount of time. When those have come up, whether it was for routes or whatnot, usually the first step is reaching out to the operator, making them aware of those concerns, and then them rectifying those. Obviously, at the end of the day, if they fail to address the concerns, there is the ability to rescind the resolution that authorizes them to operate.
And then specific to this one, I had a question about, is the pedicab constantly, I mean, maybe you can answer, is the thought process that's constantly moving around or parked waiting to pick up people to bring for wine tasting?
I'll defer that over to Sharon.
We see it as a phone call as well, so people can call us and say, I would like to, grab a ride. This is my location. But also touring around and offering rides back to the plaza or to Breathless. We do see it as a way we have over 60 parking spaces at Rack and Riddle. So people can come do a tasting and then we can put them on the pedicab and take them wherever they want to within the route that is approved.
So it sounds like it's not just bringing people there, you're actually delivering them elsewhere.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because I think it's part of the hospitality that Breathless loves to give, and whoever is going to be driving will be well-versed in Healdsburg, being able to give history. My sister and I just went on a pedicab ride in Amsterdam, and it was so informative because they knew the town and they knew the city, and they could show us things that you'll just ride by and not even know what was there. So that's another exciting part of it as well.
Thank you. That clarifies a lot. Thank you. Evelyn?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask about, so it's free to ride on, but do you, from a business perspective, how is that going to work? How are you going to increase your business that way? Are they going to have to come there first and taste and then ride, or?
It can happen either way.
Okay.
Absolutely either way. Right now, I'm sure you all know that wineries are having a difficult time bringing people into their doors. So this would benefit us, but it would also benefit the other wineries that are on our track, because we'd be happy to drop them off and share what their specialty is as far as they're making the wines. We're all sparkling, so we're very different from everyone else, and we love to support everyone here in the city.
Yeah, that sounds good. Can I ask, Chief, when the routes were changed from the other pedicab, how did that work and why? Do you know?
So that was under Chief Burke when the routes were updated last. I've not updated any routes in my tenure in the last 5 years. So forgive me if my recollection isn't spot on with this, but I believe they had approached him with a need for some updated routes based on operational changes that came about.
And did I understand you say that you have not received any complaints about that pedicab?
We received complaints early in their operations related to speed and being in the middle of the roadway, things along those lines. Some operating off of designated routes, but I have not had any complaints in the last several years.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yep.
So I just want to follow up on that a little bit. It says in the presentation that that one of the purposes is to reduce trips between plaza and industrial tasting room, and you're talking about other businesses in your area that would benefit from this. You don't have any formal partnership with them. You're just kind of allowing people to use the pedicabs. If they wanted to go to your neighbor's tasting room, that's okay, and so on. Or if they wanted to stop at Little Saint, for example, that'd be okay too. And so there's some flexibility about how people use the pedicabs. Is that right?
Exactly. As long as we're on our route, we'll drop them off wherever they are.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
I want to say this on the record because I think it's really important. When the prior council introduced the other operator to the city, there was definitely a lot of confusion, pushback, frustration, other things. And it has not always been smooth. So whether you're not receiving complaints currently, I don't know if I speak for the whole council, but I still get complaints about it on a pretty regular basis. And a lot of those complaints have to do with where it's located and blocking traffic and kind of, it's not a pedicab. Like a pedicab is I'm flagging a piece of transportation down or calling for transportation to get from point A to point B. These are tourist-oriented wine tasting furtherance vehicles that are operated by human pedals. And I think and I'm not trying to put judgment on that. I'm just like, it's different than trying to just get from place to place in terms of how in a normal urban environment, how a pedicab would operate. And so I think because it is geared mostly, there are locals who do go wine tasting, but it's typically geared for people who are visiting or those who have, spare time on their hands, that there is generally sometimes frustration between people who are like, we're a local business and we're just trying to get our commercial delivery vehicle to the front door so they can unload and we can keep our restaurant going. Or people are, circulating, trying to find parking along the plaza, and there are people on a bike, having a great time, but not necessarily allowing traffic to move freely. And so I think especially when the other pedicab was in the roundabout and has, caused some traffic disruption, or there's kind of these zany things happening, community members have said that it's frustrating because it feels as though it is, impeding people's ability to get from point A to point B in the community or people's ability to operate businesses. So all I'm trying to say is if you do end up needing to veer off of the approved route, it's, I think, critically important. Like say you have customers who come and say, we have a dinner reservation at somewhere off the beaten path and we need a ride there. Can you take us there? That ensuring that your staff is fully trained and that everyone is in the loop, that this is not, that's not what's being permitted here. And if that's what needs to happen, that we would just be open to a different conversation, but that we owe it to the community to make sure that we're not just kind of like approving. We don't have a lot of infrastructure ready to accept this type of operation. I know this is like one bike. It's not going to be a huge impact on the community, but I think the first one bike that we had did have quite a big impact. And so I imagine we are going to hear from the community about people's, we will hear feedback, good, bad, and otherwise.
Well, we welcome it all because we want to know how the impact, if it's negative in any way, we want to correct that immediately. I think I've been working more on the serious side of this, in everything that we want to train our operator to be doing and to be observant of, and especially traffic. That's the number one for all of us around the plaza. And if that's where we're going to be, we're going to have to be very, very careful.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you. And thanks for making yourself available should things come up and we need to have like an ongoing dialogue between you and staff. And I know you guys run an incredible business. You've invited the council to come see both your operation at Breathless and at Rack and Riddle. So we know, the economic impact that you are having in the community and how many local people are employed there. And especially during this downturn in the industry, like the ways in which we can try to figure out creative ways to get people to still be visiting the community. We want to be open to that while also not like alienating our local residents and trying to find that balance. So thank you for your willingness to engage in that conversation going forward.
Thank you.
I just want to add that I think those are valid concerns and I appreciate you bringing them up, but these are a lot closer to a regular bike, and I hope people can accommodate bicycles on our streets. And the other business is a much different sort of vehicle, right? And so I'm hopeful that it's going to be, there'll be less complaints and less concerns and that it'll operate safely because I want to see more bikes in general and this is sort of different for sure, but a lot closer than the other operators. So, we need to do public comment, right? Is there anybody who'd like to speak a public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none. Bring it back. Is there any other questions or comments for the chief on this? And can we entertain a motion, please?
Consider a resolution authorizing the operation of pedicab by Breathless Sparkling Wines.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Before I do a roll call, I'd just like to clarify for the record that you're going to adopt
a
resolution authorizing Breathless Sparkling Wines to operate a 6-passenger electric pedal assist pedicab business within the city of Healdsburg.
Yes.
And I second that.
Councilmember Higley?
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Edwards?
Yes.
Mayor Herod?
Yes. Thank you. Okay, on the next item, Sonoma County Library Commission appointment. Out of an abundance of caution, I am going to recuse. My wife works for the library, and though it's questionable whether I need to or not, I'm going to go ahead and do that and turn this over to Vice Mayor Edwards.
All right. Item 8D, Sonoma County Library Commission appointments. And for background, on May 18th, 2026, the City Council formed a subcommittee comprised of council members Kelly and Mitchell to conduct interviews. The subcommittee interviewed 3 applicants. And who would like to, in the subcommittee, go forward?
Well, we are grateful that we had 3 wonderful applicants and obviously big shoes to fill with Commissioner Elkin, who's departing after, I think, 8 years on the commission, which it feels like that went by really quickly. But we have really appreciated getting to know these candidates, and we would like to recommend that Caroline Gonzalez be appointed to fill the vacant seat. In addition to living in Healdsburg for 37 years, she is a fluent Spanish speaker and English speaker. She also works in the early childhood education space, and she is a program manager who runs a reading literacy program for both parents and their children. And part of the program is getting our immigrant community to the library and experiencing the library and taking advantage of all of the programming that the library has to offer. And then she herself is also a very passionate library user. In addition, she serves on the library advisory board, I think is what library advisory board, the lab for short, and has been participating on the lab for a number of years and is an active member of that body. So this seems like a good next step for her to proceed. And the other 2 commissioners, while super passionate about the library, she definitely stood out as having lived here for quite some time, as well as having a variety of different touch points with the library system, both as a user, as a professional, and as a parent.
And she was very impressive, but all 3 candidates were, and we say this every time, but I want to reiterate that I hope that they'll continue to apply for positions as they come open, because we have a lot of need for people to donate their time, and we really appreciate that they're willing to do that. So hopefully in the future, maybe there'll be some opportunities for them.
All right, I want to go ahead and open it up to public comment at this moment. Seeing no public comment, let's bring it back to council. Is anybody up for a vote?
I move that we appoint Caroline Gonzalez to the Library Commission vacant seat.
And I second that.
Could I get a voice vote?
Aye.
Roll call.
Oh, sorry.
No.
Roll call.
Roll call vote.
Councilmember Higley?
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Edwards?
Yes. All right, with that, we will appoint Caroline Gonzalez to the library board. Thank you. Bring it back to Mayor Herod.
Thank you. All right, moving on to appointment of a new planning commissioner. I'll go ahead and bring this over to Councilmember Kelly. We'll discuss our appointment process. That was myself and Ariel did the planning commissioner selections.
We had 4 applicants for the 3 seats. 2 of the seats are commissioners who are seeking to reapply for ongoing terms. And we found that both of those commissioners really continue to be passionate and engaged. Those commissioners are Jonathan Perlman and Connor McKay. Connor is currently the chair of the commission and is interested in continuing forward. So it felt as though that they both, are remaining engaged, very active participants on the commission, and are kind of going into their, getting in stride with the work of the commission. So we would like to recommend reappointing them. And then for the 3rd seat, we had 2 incredible candidates, both local folks who have resided in Healdsburg for a number of years and really had quite a lot of knowledge of things happening within the community. However, one of those candidates definitely stood out as having attended several commission meetings, understanding kind of the nuts and bolts of how the commission operates, and has applied previously, was not selected, and decided to come back and apply again, which we really appreciated because it was, I think the first time he applied, he definitely was a strong candidate, but we just didn't have enough vacancies at the time. And so that is James Gentry, who we would like to recommend for appointment. Mayor Herod, did I miss anything you want to add?
No, thank you very much. I think you covered everything nicely. Appreciate that. Let me go ahead and open it up to public comment. Do we have any public comment on the planning commissioner appointments? Seeing none, we'll bring it back and open it up for questions, comments, or a motion.
I'd just like to comment that I'm pleased that the recommendation to reappoint the 2 incumbents, because I think they're doing a great job. I think the planning commission in general is well balanced and doing good work, and they have a lot of stuff in front of them. So I appreciate that. And the candidate that you recommend, I'm sorry, the name Gentry. Yeah, I think, was definitely a top candidate. So I would approve all 3 of those.
Great. No more comments? Okay.
So I'd like to make a motion that we approve or appoint James Gentry, Connor McKay, and Jonathan Perlman for the 3 vacant seats on the Planning Commission.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Higley?
Yes.
Councilmember Kelly?
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Edwards?
Yes.
Mayor Herod?
Yes. All right. Congratulations to both appointees for both positions. Thanks to everybody who participated in that process. And we'll move on now to council reports on matters of interest occurring since the previous meeting. Who would like to begin? Go ahead.
I attended last Friday the Healdsburg Forever presentation. It was a very nice presentation, and nice to see that Healdsburg Forever really supports a lot of our nonprofits in town. Last Thursday, along with Mayor Herod and Assistant Manager Mitz, attended the Sonoma County Mayors and Council Members Association dinner. Was a really good presentation on the Measure O, the mental health issue. It was a really in-depth presentation, and look forward to hearing more from them and what they'll be doing to really be able to support what we're doing here in the city.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Just after our last council meeting, I attended the California Coalition of Governments, which is like the local government association. This term, I'm representing the Sonoma County Transportation Authority as the chairperson for Sonoma County. And so we spent a day in Sacramento talking about some of the legislative policy issues and what's happening in terms of the budget. There are a number of very dramatic budget cuts happening to both transit and transportation funding in the governor's proposed budget, which will greatly impact our ability to get projects funded like some of the projects we've had funded in the past. You may recall some of the competitive grant programs that we were successful in for like the Healdsburg Avenue project and some of the grant funds that SMART was able to access to bring the train to Healdsburg. And so both of those funding sources are looking at, major slashings in this current state budget. And so a lot of the transportation and transit agencies across the state were gathered in Sacramento to kind of talk through what that may ultimately look like. And then in addition, I was able to attend our Tuesday in the Plaza event for the first time. And it's so wonderful to see the community really come out and come together during the summer months. So, and then attending some of the graduation celebrations for many kids, both from preschool through to the high school. And I just want to say that I love seeing the Healdsburg High student banners around town and seeing some of these kids' faces where you don't see them for a number of years, and then all of a sudden they show up in a tuxedo on Healdsburg Avenue. And some of our city staff's young people that are now adults headed out into the world and the community. And so it's just such a wonderful tradition. And I think really is such a unique thing that we do in Healdsburg that celebrates what a small, incredibly caring community that we are, and would love to see us continue that event. And then was able to attend some of the Pride events that took place. I wasn't able to go to the tea dance, but I heard that people had a wonderful time. And will continue to support the Prune Packers because they're on a wild run of undefeated season, I believe, so far. Knock on. No, did they lose last night or 2 nights? Oh, man. Well, I spoke too soon. Well, the last game I went to, they were still undefeated. I'll put it that way. So maybe I need to go back. Back tomorrow night. Okay, that's it. Thanks. And looking forward to having a month off, although not a month off from all the other agencies. So, but a month off from council, and we'll reconvene in August.
All right. Would you like to go next?
Sure. After multiple meetings, closed sessions, interviews upon interviews upon interviews upon closed sessions, we have hired a new general manager. And
at NCPA.
At NCPA, sorry, the Northern California Power Agency. And we selected Tony Zimmer, who was the assistant general manager. I have the press release. Bottom line is he has been involved in NCPA since 2000. So he's been there for a long time. He held the position of assistant general manager of power management. Over the course of his tenure with the agency, he has played a central role in overseeing NCP's power operations, managing power supply contracts on behalf of member agencies, and navigating California's increasingly complex energy markets. He's had great experience testifying before the state, some of the boards on behalf of NCPA and Public Power. So I'm really excited. And he's got big shoes to fill of Randy Howard. And I had conversations with our city manager just in terms of, it's a tough decision when you're narrowing down the applicants, and when you have such a strong leader that is retiring, but then you have to kind of remember, like, okay, but he also was not who he is today. And so it's, it's a very fascinating thing that we get to do as council members and be involved in some of these things. So anyway, very happy about that. And then I didn't attend all of these things, but I am really happy with how last Saturday went. I was just out and about. I didn't make it to Farmers Market because I had something with the kids, but we went through, walked through the jazz festival was going on in the plaza. People are having a great time. Their chairs out. It was a little windy, but it was great. Stopped by the Pride Festival at the Foley Pavilion, which was happening at the same time as the Jazz Festival. Parking was not a nightmare. In fact, I parked somewhere right downtown. And then that evening was the Prune Packers. So not fast forward, but going back to when we were considering the Foley Family Pavilion and taking pressure off the plaza and the whole thing about we can have great events here and also have a completely different experience on the plaza. And at the same time, we've got the Prune Packers going. I mean, how lucky are we that we are where we are today? It's just, as a council member, I'm looking at it not just from, enjoying the events, but how all of these, and I'm sure it wasn't easy to transfer from Farmers Market to the Pride event, but it happened. And I didn't notice the difference. I'm sure our staff did, and I really appreciate it. But as somebody that walked into the event, it was set up, it was decorated, awesome. The ice cream was there, people were happy, and you wouldn't have known that the farmer's market was there earlier in the morning. And I know it was a heavy lift to do that, but the fact that we were able to do that, have that transfer over, then the jazz festival and everything else going on. I mean, it's a great day in Healdsburg, and I'm looking forward to many, many more. And the possibilities that we have, I'm just excited. I mean, this is the stuff that over the years, many community members have been like working towards, and we're kind of seeing it all come together. So
Great point.
that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Yeah, I think we live in a great community. We, baseball, music on Tuesdays and Sundays and pride events. It's like, they're all so wonderful. And I am too looking forward to the July being off, but also still being able to participate in all of those things. So it's been great.
All right, I got kind of a long list. I do want to just address the selection of Tony Zimmer. I don't know a lot of people at NCPA, but he's always really stood out as being somebody really engaged, interested in his work, super knowledgeable. I've seen him speak about public power before, and not knowing any of the other applicants, I was still super excited to see him chosen. I think everybody who gets a chance to meet him will really like this guy. He's really a good guy. So well done. Thank you for all of your efforts there. I, for the first time, finally went to the Bloodroot Ramble and was invited to speak to the audience there and welcome people to Healdsburg and praised our art scene in Healdsburg. But mostly I had a great time listening to music and rocking out, and it was a really cool event. I hope it continues for many years. Too, have been to the Music on the Plaza, also wonderful time. Love to have that back as part of my weekly summer life. I went to the Housing Trust meeting they had at Craftwork. Great turnout, lots of input from different people. That is moving forward nicely with lots of engagement and lots of good ideas coming forward. So happy to participate in that a little bit. I was mostly just listening there, watching what was unfolding, but very excited about their progress. And then there was the Packers game, and they invited me to throw out the first pitch. It was surprisingly unembarrassing, and very happy about that. Happy to thank you. Council members Higley and Kelly were there. I'm not sure if either of you were there, and I didn't see you, but I had to leave right after that to go to graduation. But nonetheless, that was a really, really fun experience. So I was really expecting the worst, but it was pretty cool. So graduation, of course, my son graduated and gave a speech. So very, personal night for me, but for everybody in the community, a great celebration of a bunch of really great kids. And so happy to report on that as well. One of the highlights, I can't say this strongly enough, maybe you saw my post on this, but I attended the Girl Scouts troop presentation about the trip to Japan. And they didn't just talk about the trip to Japan. They talked about all the service work that they do, all the fundraising they do, all the other trips that they do. And they are just so amazing as a group. We're just so lucky to have them. And it's inspiring. I'm so happy that Lupe got the Bree Sparks Award a year or two ago. She totally deserves that. These kids are just fantastic, and then so I went to that, and they served a wonderful meal. They all spoke. It was a long, not that long, but it was every girl, did public speaking and was super poised and confident, and I just learned so much about all the stuff that these kids are doing. And then, I show up at the Pride event, and there they are painting faces for Magic Bridge, So I just really want to acknowledge those people for all the amazing things they're contributing to Healdsburg. We had our lab meeting, Library Advisory Board, and had a presentation from Reach for Home, which, of course, the homeless community and the library interface with each other quite a bit, and they're great at it, and they're a really important component in helping and working with our homeless community. So it was a really great conversation between both of those folks, the people from Reach for Home, and it was Shelby Harris. But I was there to express the city's interest in the L&M and Reach for Home and so on. Anyway, great conversation there. I spoke to the first night of the Jazz Fest, the Raven, and I once again got to speak about all the great advances happening in the arts world in Healdsburg. And then Saturday morning, yes, thank you, Norm, who's gone now. I did go out with the Rotary group and pulled up a window for a couple hours, and it kicked my butt, but it was really worth doing. They had a great turnout, and they all kind of came together at the last minute because there was magazine coverage. The Rotary magazine reaches 1.5 million people worldwide, so it's really worthwhile to showcase all the work that's happening.
What is the name of the magazine?
It's the Rotary's magazine.
You just said it's like Arundo worldwide. It's like they should not have a magazine for the invasive species.
Movers Global, yeah. I don't know. No. But yeah, it was a great turnout. I ran into an old high school teacher who was working with us. She's probably in her 80s, and she was there too, and I hadn't seen her in however many years. So anyway, that was a great event. And then cap it off, same Saturday, the Pride event. It's the first one at Foley. They had one last year, but it was much smaller. But this is really the shape of this event moving forward. And we kind of expect this to grow, and it had a great turnout. Tons of people. They talked me into doing the runway part. I found my purple zoot suit from the Mr. Healdsburg contest and had a great time. And it was super fun. And lots of laughs, lots of kids, lots of great informational booths there. And so if this is the shape of Pride celebrations to come in Healdsburg, then it's really going to be fantastic, because that was a lot of fun. And then I moved over to the Juneteenth concert on the plaza, and it was a very meaningful, I wasn't there for the whole thing, but it was a great turnout, very meaningfully focused on Juneteenth as a celebration, and just fantastic music that the Jazz Festival shares with everybody. So that is all I've got. And I am, a busy week, yeah. So we'll see you all in August, adjourning the meeting at 8:14. Thank you.